Good evening, everybody. This is day 1094. 1094 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And he didn't just vanish, something happened. And I wanted to talk about, let's check to see if I'm on here on Facebook. Thank you so much for taking time out. We're, you know, 1094 days. A lot of those days I was doing two live streams, um, and now I do some TikToks. We're putting more TikToks together, reels together, and snippets of these live streams, so we can get the word out because we have it all. We've had it all. We've had enough. When I say we have it all, it means there's enough allegations, there's enough evidence, there's enough probable cause for there to be a oversight investigation, a congressional inquiry leading to an congressional hearing, and you know real legal action here. And it's very hard to get that done because this case is so big, involving so many high ranking officials, and the system that is so, um, let's just say, uh, they're compromised. I think that's the best word. It's been going on for so long that so many are compromised. And it is a house of cards. Um, or you can say you're building your house on sand, because it's just unsavory. It's just criminal. It is crimes against humanity. It is murder. It is really heartless. It is really heartless. And I think that our focus should be on the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice is in the news quite a bit, and they have showed their true colors. Of course, I think it's the DOD also, and uh, the media also. So, what has happened is because we're so compromised in the media, so compromised in our Department of Defense, and so compromised in our Department of Justice, and in the intelligence community, where they say, "Oh, we've got 6 ways a Sunday to get even with you." I mean, what are you talking about? You're supposed to be working for us, right? You're supposed to be working for us. And what's happened is they are working now for the foreign and domestic enemies of this country. And it's clear in the Department of Defense, the 44 four-star generals and admirals, they are also working for the foreign and domestic enemies of this country. They're not honoring their oaths. That's very clear. And then the Department of Justice is also compromised. And, for Richard's case, the lies are just uh, enormous, and many, 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 many lies. And they had to have everybody in lockstep, threatened, or just part of a developed, uh, on purpose, um, planned out criminal syndicate, brought in over the years. We are going to put this person as judge, this person as general, this person as lieutenant colonel, or this person as colonel, this person is, we're going to bring these people in, this person as representative, this person as a DA, this person as an AG, this person as the chief of security of Fort Bliss. And I will tell you, the more that I learn about Tom Kane, the more disappointed um, that and this is not anything personal. It's disappointed with the system that they would hire such a man that would be so dishonest. And the same thing goes with Clem Coward, right? The same thing goes with first. I mean, let's stay with the high-ranking officials, like General McConville, like General Mealy, like General Garrett, like Lieutenant General Donna Martin, and Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. I mean, these are huge criminals. Just, it, it, I just can't even explain to you how many people they hurt. They hurt so many people. And in so doing, they also hurt our country. And they are a national security threat. They are a national security threat because they bring the morale down so low in the military that the military has so many suicides. I just was given information today from our intel. We have an alliance now um, from within Fort Bliss. And so we're getting intel from within Fort Bliss. And the intel that I received today was that over the weekend, there was another suicide. And the suicide was a warrant officer. Okay, which I don't know if many of you know this, but Rob was a warrant officer. When we met, he was a warrant officer. My husband went in as an E3 and worked his way up to E6 and went to PA school. Became a warrant officer. That's right after PA school. That's when we met, and was a warrant officer for quite a while. He loved that rank. It is a preferred rank in the military, according to my husband. It is a really great rank to be. Um, and but during the Gulf Wars, if you had a degree, a certain level of degree, and you were certified and everything that Rob was, you were all automatically commissioned. And that's how he got commissioned and retired as a lieutenant colonel. So, but this suicide that happened over the weekend is a warrant officer, which is absolutely shocking. It shocked us when we found out that one of the grog drinkers under Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, they were drinking grog in the field. They were drinking grog. It's not enough that they were groomed to have that in the barracks, but they were having it in the field, and they were drinking it out of a sealet, which is part of the missile equipment, and it had antifreeze in it. And I believe 11, 12 of them, 11 were just really ill, very, very ill. Um, and you just do not recover. Some of them almost lost their lives. You just do not recover quickly from drinking antifreeze. So it is a very deadly situation that the lack of leadership, the dereliction of leadership, the up to no good leadership, the breaking of the oath, the committing crimes against humanity, what they have created. And and it hurts so many people, so many people. Um, and so, yet again, I think this is number 8 in 7 months. I think this is 8 suicides in 7 months for Fort Bliss. What is going on at Fort Bliss? And you're talking about the, Major General Eisenhower uh, coming in. Yes, he got a mess, but these generals, they're very powerful. We have given them everything. They have these huge staffs. They have a lot of money. They have everything, everything. And so he can turn things on a dime. He can absolutely, Major General Eisenhower could have turned things on a dime and change the entire weakness of and the criminality that's going on Fort Bliss. And he could make it strong, very easily, very easily. Number one, you have to uh, provide separate housing for women in the military. You can't have co-ed barracks. That would absolutely prevent so many rapes, so much sexual harassment and rapes, right? So if they were really serious about lessening the numbers of sexual harassment and rapes, the very easy thing to do is to separate the men and the women. Okay. And, it's very clear what a man is and what a woman is. And uh, it's very clear. There's no, let's not confuse things like the world wants us to be confused. There's no confusion in it. Okay. So, yeah, they could separate the men from the women. Um, he could absolutely click all the hills together to stop the barracks from being a marketplace for illegal drugs. You see, that they allow the barracks to be a marketplace for illegal drugs and then, just do lip service to it. It's clear. Um, it's clear that they have other agendas, other business plans that they want to attend to rather than to defend the Constitution. So I don't know uh, Major General Eisenhower, but it seems with all of these suicides under his watch that he is up to no good. And that's why we need to pray for him. We really need to pray that he will look in the mirror and say, this is not the general that I want to be. This is not the legacy that I want to leave. You know, um, and it has really nothing to do with his personal life. It has to do with his legacy as a general. And I think that is something that we have lost as far as teaching our young people um, what honor is. Because honor has everything to do with legacy. Everything to do. What are you going to leave behind? It is forward thinking. It's really forward thinking. So, and to stop all this, God's children are not for sale. So, to stop the child trafficking, to stop the human trafficking, to stop the narcotics trafficking, to stop the weapon smuggling, along with the ammunition smuggling and equipment. The equipment, selling America's equipment for profit illegally. And so it goes back to the judge, because the judge absolutely sees these cases. Judge Robert Shuck, he presided over Asha Graham's case. okay, with Christian Alvarado, which is another very interesting character. And many times these criminals are linked to other cases. Um, so, he would absolutely, the judge would absolutely know. And in reference to Richard's case, there were warrants issued. And we have a request in from him. And we have his number and everything, um, because he's not answering our request. And here he is a judge, and he absolutely could answer the different warrants, the probable cause, and also the other evidence that we would like to know. Um, if he was connected to it, knows about it, um, ruled on some of the information that we're getting, the arrest warrants, the search warrants, the warrants for physical evidence, the warrants for a vehicle, um, the warrants for financial records, communication warrants, the did I say tracking? A tracking warrant for a certain cell phone, um, search warrants for residences, even though there was no warrant that they can produce uh, when they searched our home. So I think he knows all about that, and he needs to answer those questions. And so remember the name Robert Lee Shuck, judge, and I believe he is a colonel. Um, Colonel, because he is active duty. Judge Robert Lee Shuck, and I do think he is a full bird colonel. So that is very, very important to have the JAG be scrutinized also, because they could stop things in their tracks by not refusing to issue the probable cause affidavits and also the warrants. And something was very, very fishy in Richard's case, because we were told there's only 5 warrants, but I'm looking at 15 or more warrants. Okay, so that should tell you right there that this is a murder case, because you don't have 15 or more warrants and it just be a missing soldier case. Okay, very that in itself is very, very telling. The amount of warrants and why they protected the number of warrants from us, why they didn't tell us. It's all been such a secret because they've been operating behind the scenes and not being transparent with us or the American people about this case. And I think that should really um, alert so many, because they do everything on the taxpayer's dime, okay? And they are there to serve the taxpayer, the people of this country. I should say the people of this country, the land and the people. And so when they are withholding important information from us that should be revealed, absolutely they should be very transparent in Richard's case, um, for justice sake, for our country's sake, for our military's sake, for morale's sake. But see, morale is so low that we're at the 8th suicide in 7 months. Um, I know it's almost 8 months, but we're not quite there yet. And, we know that the situation on Fort Bliss is just that bad. And how do we know? Because we had a soldier that defected to North Korea. rather defect to North Korea and take his chances there than to go back to Fort Bliss, right? Than to go back to Fort Bliss. Yeah. What is wrong with Fort Bliss? Something is very, very wrong with Fort Bliss. And we have 8 suicides in 7 months. That's, tell me if I'm right or wrong with the number. That's what I have tracking. Maybe it's more. And, or were they suicided? Right? That's another. This is the questions that I get from Team Find Richard Halliday. Oh, were they suicided? Right? Because they like to train to suicide. Who? Um, it would be the command structure that would like to train to suicide. It was Major General Clem Coward that started the retaliation against Richard. That was illegal. And of course, it was Lieutenant Colonel Roddick that continued that with Captain David Park. Um, and, with the chaptering that got into, um, just really destroying any kind of future in the military. And so for some, that is really devastating. For Richard, he knew he could rally. They didn't like that he knew he could rally. And so they greenlit his murder. And how do I know? And why would I be so bold to say something like that? Well, I've gotten intel that said that. And I looked at the intel with my husband, and we were like, okay, um, that that sounds right. That sounds right because of the responses that we have gotten um, from just inquiring about where Richard is, inquiring about Richard's remains, inquiring about Nadal Baim, the FBI man that walked into the Dollar General store and said that the FBI had found Richard's remains in Juarez, Mexico. Shh, shh. Yeah, that is all. Um, then we have, of course, Anthony Swafford. We have the paralegal. We have the generals themselves, and the fake and staged task force find Richard Halliday, which was not normal. They weren't even in uniform, and that made it unofficial. And so the canine situation, where they wouldn't even tell us the name of the canine because that was just a setup job. Um, so this is, and then now we're learning about Tom Kane, who he just retired, but he was the chief of security for Fort Bliss. And there had to be a compromise, there had to be a collusion between him and FBI. No, not FBI. Well, maybe the FBI, because the FBI took over Richard's investigation on the day of uh, the FBI man walking into the Dollar General store. So that would be the 26th of October, 2020. So, but the CID and Tom Kane had to collude together because Tom Kane is the man with all of the security information when it comes to the gates, when it comes to the CCTV footage, when it comes to many, many other things about Fort Bliss and its security. And so, uh, he would absolutely have to collude with Marlon Soto to cover this up. Absolutely. So he's totally implicated, and yet I think he has some conscience. Maybe, I don't know, because he went into the JAG, who the JAG should absolutely know what's going on in Richard's case. They had the probable cause affidavits. They gave them out with the warrants. They absolutely know. And, um, you know, Tom Kane walks in there and talks about the discrepancies at Fort Bliss, also with the situation, the negative retaliation against our key witness. Uh, in this case, without a packet, he knew they carried out retaliation without a packet. It's kind of like what they did to Richard. There's nothing there. There's not anything there. But when they brought us in, they wanted to formulate a narrative, a fake narrative. No, there was no reality to it. Um, so so this is what they did. Not They didn't even have a packet. They just create their own little narrative, and they have nothing to back it up at all. No investigation, no documentation, no notification. And so they commit more and more crimes upon more and more crimes upon more and more crimes. And it's no wonder that we have so many suicides and murders right now in the military, and that the morale is at an all-time low. Um, it is no wonder. And so please pray for our military, for the right thing to be done. The right thing. So thank you, Anicia. Thank you, Danielle. Um, I want to also mention with Robert Lee Shuck, we're looking at if there is a conflict of interest with the Hart family, right? Is there a conflict of interest with Robert Lee Shuck and Leilani Hart, or James Hart, or Dallas Hart? And why do we say that? Because Leilani Hart, James Hart, Dallas Hart had a conflict of interest with the chief of security there from Fort Bliss. Number one, um, well, I won't say that, but I'll say what I know, that he was still on the rolls on the list of Park University, and that's where they met. And Leilani Hart and Tom Kane have known each other for many years. And I don't know how well. Okay, let's leave it at that. I know that they have a close friendship for many years. And we know that Leilani Hart knows Tavita Newsom very, very well, because they were having, rolls in the hay together. Um, and this is not me, right? This is not me saying it. This was reported to us and confirmed by James Hart, okay? That he would not, and others. So, and okay, fine, they have an open marriage, whatever. Whatever. I think it's terrible, because I think more and more people get hurt when that is the case, especially children. And of course, in this case, the hurt is criminal, absolutely criminal. So not only did Leilani Hart have a connection within this special agent CID, the CID right there at Fort Bliss, the Criminal Investigative Division right there, that office, the law enforcement office right there on Fort Bliss, but also with the security, the chief of security there on Fort Bliss, for Fort Bliss, on Fort Bliss. And also she knew Clem Coward very well too. So we have information with that. So not only with the general, but also with the CID, also with security. And also we know the connection within the JAG. But we're looking to see if there's a connection with Judge Robert Shuck, because that's just the circle she was in, those law enforcement circles. So I think it's very important to see if that was also a conflict of interest, because we absolutely should know how many warrants, and we shouldn't have to get it from a different source, the warrants that were issued in our son's case. So if you have any questions at all, I'd be glad to answer. It is a lot of things are going on behind the scenes, and one of the main points that we want to do is point out the problems that Major General Eisenhower has on Fort Bliss. He has a lot under his watch. He's not doing his duty. He's not doing his duty. And so we need those prayers for him. And we need, because remember what Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe said, these leaders, they have to be driven to do the right thing, right? They have to be driven. So we need to send those letters. We need to shout from the rooftops for the sake of our volunteer sons and daughters, for the sake of our country, that he needs to do the right thing. And doing the right thing would be to hold independent investigation into Richard Halliday and to release his remains back to us. Give us back Richard's remains. And I absolutely am convinced that they have Richard's remains. Okay. Did they destroy them? I don't know. I don't know. I hope not. I hope not. I'm really praying that we will get Richard's remains. So that's really, really important. So do we have information that they found Richard's remains? Yes, over and over and over again. Autopsy reports, but also information coming to us over and over and over again. And I think that Nadal Baim is one of the most clear witnesses in this, that the FBI found Richard's remains in Juarez, Mexico. There is another witness report to the CID and the FBI that Richard was in uniform in Juarez, Mexico, and dead. Okay. So that's just two, but we have others, and we have then more information with the dates, with the numbers, with locations, with and we have turned all of that in. And there needs to be a media press conference to clarify that to the people of the United States, because not only is Richard my son, but he is the American soldier, okay? The Americans invest in our volunteer sons and daughters, and they have the right to know if they are hiding Richard's remains, and what they've done to the remains, and why they hid this terrible, terrible crime. And so it's not just for us, but it's for every American out there. And it's for every service member, because our service members need to know that the FBI and the command and Judge Robert Shuck, the Department of Justice, our law enforcement, the security chief there for Fort Bliss, cannot get away with treating our volunteer sons and daughters inhumanely, because this is inhumane. And that's why the morale is so low that they think that they could treat our volunteer sons and daughters like fodder, like they can train them to suicide, that they can um, be murdered off, and then they are not held accountable. This, is a huge, and over again, we have the dereliction of duty and their um, cold bloodedness of their selfishness for their own self interest, and using our military for their own self interest, for, from real estate deals, right? Billion dollars. I mean, I remember in Germany, they made $1 billion real estate deal to create the new military hospital there, right outside of Ramstein. And there's a perfectly good hospital, paid for everything, up in Landstuhl, and not even hardly being used. Beautiful area, no problem. So these real estate deals on the American dime, and then these other business plans that they do, with the human trafficking, with the child trafficking, with um, the DOD being used as the arm for Fauci, right? I mean, during that whole COVID debacle, Fauci could never have gotten away with what he got away with in terms of crimes against humanity. And, um, that is being played out right now, too. And I think there's a website, and I haven't gone to it yet, but if anyone knows about it, but I think it's Arrest Dr. Fauci. I think that's what it is. But people don't understand it was 44 four-star generals and admirals that stood shoulder to shoulder to the crimes of what Fauci and Dr. Birx was doing. And they stood side by side and backed them up. Because, see, you have to have, if you're going to be like a general like Fauci was, and absolutely he was like the leader at that time, you have to have the military backing you up. And the military has these endless pockets. And the Pentagon, of course, feels that they do not have to account for their spending because they've had 5 audits with trillions of dollars missing. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So they're not even held accountable for keeping track of the funds that the Americans give them, right? And so when they were serving Fauci shoulder to shoulder in the crimes against humanity, they were paying out these contracts. They were the source, the mechanism, the tool of Fauci. It's like a dream job to have the entire American military right there in your palm to do your will. And that's exactly what happened. A mad scientist controlling our military. And because the military leadership, the 44 four-star generals and admirals, were willingly doing that. And those that weren't willing, they were retaliated against and thrown out. And so now you have, and this is Senator Cruz is trying to reinstate some of these people that were retaliated against in the military. And we're in for it because they're trying to get this other General Brown to take General Milley's place. And let me tell you, the reports are not good for what's going to come if he is, uh, the new Mealy. Because Mealy's bad, but I heard Brown is even worse. And so, what are we to expect? Double of the suicides? Or bringing in these migrants that have crossed over the border, make a deal to bring them into the military so that they have no connection with the people here in this country. And so we're going to have a military that is of new people. That is to be used and abused. To be used and abused, okay. I'm not saying they're going to be treated any better than our volunteer soldiers right now, because it seems that they don't want to get rid of the rape. They don't want to get rid of the sex cults and the grooming and the sexual assault. They don't want to get rid of the barracks being the marketplace for illegal drugs, to have frat parties every day, to bring in 14-year-old girls to live in the barracks. I wanted to point out on TikTok, one of the people that I follow, um, she always does these crime things of the military, and she was, her comments that she got when she did the 14-year-old girl being in the barracks. Um, and maybe I need to tell her a few things that I know from my intel. Um, but she was getting all kinds of comments that this is nothing new. People live in the barracks all the time. So the SOPs for the barracks are just not being followed. Um, that is a leadership problem, and many would say that's an NCO problem, of course, but the NCOs are given the directive by the generals. And the generals apparently want the 14-year-old girls to be living in the barracks, being raped several times a night by multiple members of the barracks. And who knows who comes in, because there's no signing in, there's no SOP. So you've got the sex cults, you've got the prostituting children, so that's child trafficking right there in the barracks. And don't forget that this was happening over at Camp Pendleton too. So Richard, let's get back to Richard, is he had so many complaints to make. He had so many complaints. There's wrongdoing all around, and it is illegal. It is illegal to take people into slavery. It is illegal to have a 14-year-old girl being raped, being prostituted out in the barracks. It is illegal to have the barracks being the marketplace for illegal drugs. It is illegal to smuggle and sell on eBay, on other sites, military equipment and weapons and ammunition, and make profit off of it. It is illegal. It, you have William Wilberforce for years, tirelessly working to end slavery. Why did he have to work tirelessly for years? Because he was facing something that was legalized slavery. We have slavery as illegal, and yet we have the open market of slavery right now, with the child sex trafficking, with the human trafficking, which are mostly all women. And then we have the 85,000 unaccounted for minors out of the emergency intake center right there at Fort Bliss that they just closed up. And the children that were left that hadn't been trafficked yet, they were brought over to North Carolina. But what do you call 85,000 unaccounted for minors? You have to call that trafficking because they're unaccounted for. What did they do with them? And, there's the other subject of, that gets very ugly. There's a lot of very ugly, this all leads to more and more ugliness, okay? And I'm fully aware of all the different aspects of human trafficking. And so Richard's calling out a few of them, and, these are illegal actions, and they're done at the highest level. They're greenlit at the highest level, so that when Richard wanted to report what he was seeing in his unit, those that he had no recourse, and he didn't realize he had no recourse because the CID is in on it. The Tom Keynes, the head of security of Fort Bliss, is in on it. The DOJ is in on it. The Clem Coward, the commanding general, is in on it, right? Of 32nd AdCom is in on it. CPS, I know because I made those connections between people that are involved in this case and CPS, and there's connections, y'all. So they've had many, many years to place who they want, where they want to create this criminal syndicate, this criminal cabal, this whatever you want to call it, and to make this happen. And that is why they could lockstep together, and why, like the likes of Command Sergeant Major Jake Jakovitz was just shaking because, here he is a soldier, he's just shaking. Why he would go along with it, because he knows what was going on with Clem Coward, Major General Clem Coward. He knows what was happening with Richard. He knows what was happening because of Jay Paulin. Him and Jay Paulin are buddies. Okay, so there is another conflict of interest. So if he's buddies with Jay Paulin, is he buddies with Ron Steig too? And then now, guess what position he holds in the VA? So you don't even have the VA to go. You think that anybody reporting problems in the VA is going to be taken seriously by the likes of Command Sergeant Major Jakovitz? He's a sellout. He's a total sellout. So not only do they have who they want, and I believe that James Hart is part of VA. So, they all know each other. And of course, NCOs, senior NCOs know each other. They're a big club. And so to have that little clique in the CID, to have the big clique, which is to have underneath your thumb the chief of security of Fort Bliss, and then to have also on your side, I guess, on your support side, the JAG. No wonder these people are so emboldened to commit so many crimes, because they've committed a lot of crimes with us. A lot of crimes. And why aren't they arrested? And I mean, you have, is James Hart arrested? Is Dallas Hart arrested? And it has nothing to do with Richard Halliday's case, I guess. It has everything to do with Lonnie Hart saying that her son, while he was in uniform, was in an incestuous relationship. That in her household, she had child porn constantly. that in her home, a 7-year-old was being sexually assaulted in her master bedroom by multiple members of her family. That's not me saying that. That's she's saying that. So where are the arrests if they're concerned? Where are the arrests? Because she had it notarized. So, and then, but she's buddies with Tom Kane. And Tom Kane is totally compromised. And they were emboldened. He was even emboldened to do what he did because I have intel. He didn't even look at Richard as like a human being. It's cold-blooded. And then to have people within the military police or to even train them. You see, this has to come from the 44 four-star generals to not train the military police properly. And they absolutely are not trained properly. And then I believe that Richard raised in the complaints safety problems. Well, we just had the death of a soldier because of an accident, and let me tell you, he was dead in a second. It snapped him. He got hit in the head and his spine broke. So what's going on Fort Bliss? That you have a soldier that rather defect to North Korea. And people don't understand this too. Maybe he did. But North Korea, between South Korea and North Korea was the Christian stronghold of Korea. And so why that was given to the communists is very curious. Very curious. Because Eastern Germany was also a stronghold for Christianity too. Erfurt is still today known for its capital for Luther, the Evangelische Kirche, right, in Germany. And also that whole area was Luther land. Martin Luther, we went on 3 tours during that after the wall came down. It's just curious to me why they bombed Nagasaki and Hiroshima, which were the Christian capitals of Japan. So, and you can go on and on and on of things getting destroyed. And I think that we, as Christians, we need to wake up because it is so many people are getting hurt. And the beauty of Christianity is compassion and duty to law, right, to morality, to the future, and to beauty, to glory, to honor, to all the virtues. And we have slipped as Christians. We have slipped. We have been way too tolerant to the breaking of God's law. And so many, many children now are being enslaved for many different reasons, and God help them if they're enslaved sexually. And, also for like the cocaine, I think the movie Sound of Freedom shows how they're enslaved to press the cocaine leaves, right, to get the cocaine out of the leaves, to harvest the leaves. And I have a garden. It's pretty small. We just did bush beans today, and I'm just comparing it because these people that are enslaved to do that for hours and hours every day, um, it is food doesn't come to the table easily, and cocaine doesn't come to the White House easily. It takes a lot of work, and to think of children being enslaved to do that is really heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. And we need to take action. And the action is to establish just laws and morality. And that means, and I've always told the kids this, it means selfless service. You can't always have what you want. You can't always do what you want. You have to think about the other person. You have to think about the greater good. You have to think about your country. You have to think about the future, how it affects the future, the consequences of everything that you do. And Richard did a remarkable thing. He took it to heart. He took it to heart, and he stood up against so many things, because he stood up against the narcotics, y'all. He stood up against, of course, the child trafficking, and he stood up against the illegal sales, the taking advantage of military property, which is the America's property, and taking advantage of it. They're not being good stewards. They were thieves. Thieves in every sense. And Augustine says that a land without justice is just a band of robbers. They're just thieves. They'll steal your life. They'll steal the child's life. They'll steal their innocence. They will steal their time. They will steal wealth. They will steal patents. And you see that with the Hunter Bidens right now. It's very clear there's nothing selling influence. They were selling parts of our country and our goodwill and our manufacturing abilities and everything like that. It's just our secrets, our inventions, because Americans are just so inventive. So this is definitely political. If you come to Team Find Richard Halliday, it's definitely political, 100%. Because where are the politicians right now? Where are the actors? Where are the advocates for children's rights, or anti-slavery? What about the racist groups? The equal opportunity groups or whatever. Where are they right now? They're just silent when it comes to the truth that is being put out there, that we have human slavery today. And they're just silent, and it speaks volumes. Their silence speaks volumes. Just like in Richard's case, the silence of Judge Robert Lee Shuck speaks volumes, and the rest of the JAG, and also the other agencies that we have inquiries about. And there is a conflict of interest, And I'm not even the main enemy. Okay. They don't, that of course they will lie about whatever has happened, and you know, they're, well, they've claimed to be mentally ill. Why are you going to believe anybody that claims to be mentally ill? Okay. So that whole site is, um, uh, number one, they're committing wire fraud, they're committing uh, other crimes, and whatever. They're just the arms, they're just, tools. They're just tools are being played, and their lives are being destroyed because of being played. And so pray for them. Pray for them. And some of them are implicated in this. A lot of them are implicated in this. Okay, they're implicated, and the domino effects will, all connect. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. Um, Thank you, Donna. You're tuning in tonight. Thank you so much. Well, this is a house of cards, and I don't know for how long they can keep building it, but it's not stable, and it's going to come down. And we have too much, like I said, we have everything, and we have more everything than what we did a couple months ago, and every day we have new things. And just that we know that the chief of security for Fort Bliss is compromised, and is implicated in so many aspects of the crimes against Richard. In this case, I just, yeah, but he tried to do one thing good. He tried to go into JAG, and they wouldn't accept his complaint. Let's see what happens today. Let's see what happens today. So, thank you so much. God bless you all, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.